The Supreme Court is set to bring down the curtain on the legal dispute over the outcome of the 25th February presidential election, as it will today, Thursday, deliver the final judgment on the two appeals challenging the victory of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at the disputed poll. Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) and Peter Obi of the Labour Party (LP), the two leading opposition candidates at the election, had filed separate appeals to challenge the earlier 6th September verdict of the Presidential Election Petition Court, which affirmed Tinubu's victory. Today's verdict will be the final court decision on the dispute over the election. It will mark the end of a two-stage judicial battle, the first part of which was decided by the Presidential Election Court in favor of Tinubu, which was further challenged at the Supreme Court. The court will now give the final say on the validity or otherwise of Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's election. Nigeria's Electoral Commission (INEC) had declared Tinubu the winner of the election on 1st March. However, Atiku and Peter Obi, who came second and third respectively, questioned INEC's conduct of the election as the alleged widespread electoral fraud and the ineligibility of Tinubu and his vice Kashim Shettima to vie for the presidency. A 5-member panel of the Presidential Election Petition Court, headed by Haruna Zamani, adjudicated the suit for 3 months before dismissing them on September 6th. The court held that Atiku and Peter Obi failed to prove their separate claims against Tinubu and INEC. Dissatisfied, the pair headed to the Supreme Court, the final arbiter on presidential election dispute in Nigeria, where they urged the court to set aside the Presidential Election Court decision on account of miscarriage of justice. A 7-member panel of the Supreme Court, headed by John Okoro, heard Atiku and Peter Obi's appeal on Monday and set them down for judgment. At the final hearing of the case on Monday, Atiku's lawyer, Chris Uche, tendered fresh evidence before the Supreme Court to prove his client's case against the president. The Supreme Court will decide in its judgment today whether the fresh evidence critical to Atiku's case is legally acceptable and can be reviewed as part of evidence submitted by a party. Specifically, Atiku, through his lawyer Chris Uche, accused Tinubu of forgery concerning the president's academic record from the Chicago State University. After a rigorous suit in the United States, Atiku obtained Mr. Tinubu's academic records, which he has now filed at the Supreme Court to prove his forgery allegation, which was rejected by the Presidential Election Court against Mr. Tinubu. On his part, Peter Obi's lawyer Levi Uzogu urged the Supreme Court to nullify the Presidential Election Court decision and declare Peter Obi the winner of the election. However, the president's lawyer Wole Olanipekun, INEC's lawyer Abubakar Mahmood, and APC lawyer Akin Olujimi asked the Supreme Court to dismiss the appeal and affirm Tinubu's victory. The court subsequently fixed Thursday for the judgment of their final verdict. The Supreme Court on Thursday delivered final judgment on the appeals filed to challenge the Presidential Tribunal Court (PEPC) verdict that uphold Bola Ahmed Tinubu's victory in the February 25th, 2023 presidential election. Peter Obi of the Labour Party (LP) and Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) filed their appeals against the PEPC judgment. In his reaction, the Chief of Staff to the President Femi Gbajabiamila, who was at the Supreme Court premises, said the victory is a beginning of governance. He is asking the opposition to join the president in moving the country forward. The Supreme Court has now dismissed Atiku and Peter Obi's appeal for lacking in merit. It therefore upheld Bola Ahmed Tinubu's victory in the 2023 presidential election. The Supreme Court also dismissed Peter Obi's appeal against Tinubu on double nomination. The Supreme Court has upheld Tinubu's victory according to the rule. On the whole, having resolved all the issues against the appellant, it is my view that there is no merit in the appeal and it is hereby dismissed, Justice Inyang Okoro said. The judgment of the court below delivered on September 6, 2023, affirming the election of the second respondent as the duly elected President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is hereby affirmed. Supreme Court dismisses Atiku's appeal challenging the judgment of the Presidential Election Petition Court for lacking in merit. Justice Okoro also stated that the testimony of Atiku and Peter Obi's state coalition officers are mere hearsay. According to him, it was impossible for the testifiers to be in all parts of their states at the same time to prove their case that there was electoral fraud. The Supreme Court, in its final verdict, reveals that Tinubu actually won the election and for that reason upheld his victory, meaning that Tinubu will continue to rule Nigeria as the President of the Federal Republic. Peter Obi and Atiku case was finally dismissed by the Supreme Court.